All right, so this video is going to be going into some of the kind of tips, tricks that aren't really talked about as much available to Warlocks in Everbloom. I will be making some videos for some other dungeons as well. Everbloom has a lot of really cool stuff that Warlock is able to do, some of which may not be covered in this video, but these are some things that I have used and can be used and are just generally very, very valuable for Warlocks to do within this dungeon. Just kind of to start with here, just running through, I do kind of want to point out these naturalist mobs. These are the mobs that will spam your tank with dancing thorns, which does do a lot of tank damage, especially for tanks that are bad with dealing with magic damage. There are quite a few of them in the dungeon. They are probably the most dangerous caster mob in the dungeon, especially on pulls where there are multiple of them. It can be really valuable to put up Curse of Tongues. There is a talent available in the class tree that can give you empowered Curse of Tongues as well. I don't think that's typically necessary. Just kind of spreading Curse of Tongues across whatever naturalists happen to be in the pull and just reduce the amount of tank damage quite a bit and just make getting those interrupts quite a bit easier. They are also the same mob that casts Choking Vines that stuns a party member and does damage to them over time. So very valuable to make those casts slower as well. Coming through to here, this is a Warlock gate that I will put up very commonly for tanks. Some tanks use it, some tanks don't. I find more often than not tanks do use this lock gate when they are pulling these dread petals into the first boss, which is a very, very common strat to pull these dread petals into the first boss. The first boss doesn't really do any damage, especially not tank damage. It's just really easy to just kind of clean them up, as long as it's not like a sanguine week or something. Even on bolstering, like this week, I do think that it's typically pretty free pulling these into the first boss. So a lot of tanks do that. That's especially helpful for tanks that are low mobility, like warriors, probably bears as well. They can go travel form, but it's still not super fast. Not as fast as a Warlock gate coming back in. Paladins without horse, things like that. BDH is probably fine. Monks are probably fine, but again, it's a lot of free movement that it gives them for something that they're kind of definitively going to be doing anyway. Coming up here will be a gate skip that you can do from this location. So typically after you would like finish the first boss, or if you just want to skip straight to the third boss for whatever reason, you can jump to this route here, which is actually a deceptively easy jump to make, and then just kind of fall onto that ledge there and lets you just run around this area, this kind of terrain here. And there is a Warlock gate position that you can get right there. Actually quite easy. Just looking over that, what appears to be a kind of a wall of thorns. That one doesn't get used super often. It really depends on the boss order you want to go for in the dungeon. This does kind of let you do a backwards boss order, which can be viable or valuable depending on when you want to send lust. Because typically, most people want to be able to lust the second boss, and kind of depending on where you want to send your lust otherwise, can be better to do this in kind of a reverse boss order, which is impossible otherwise because you would have to skip past the second boss. So without this Warlock gate, you can't skip past the second boss to do third boss. Coming over here, this can actually save you a good 15, possibly 20 seconds just skipping the RP that would normally happen after the third boss. If you already have the Hapless Assistants dead back behind me here, prior to killing the third boss, then this Warlock gate here, I'm actually going to skip ahead to when my buff wears out and show again this position. It's just kind of in this frond. Fairly easy Warlock gate, just again right over what would appear to be this thorn wall, and so you can just take it no problems. Worth noting, any of these gate skips can also be done with Warrior Heroic Leap, VDH Infernal Strike, as well as Evoker Rescue. The Evoker Rescue is definitely the big one there, because an Augmentation Evoker can give a Wormstone to somebody, and you can get on a 3-person mount, like a repair mount that you kick the 2 vendors off of, and they can rescue the person that is on the 3-person mount, which will actually rescue themselves as well as the 3 people on that mount, and then the last person would just have to have the Wormstone to teleport to the Aug. Alternatively, you can do it with the 4 and then have a warrior or a VDH jump using their ability. Worth noting, these mobs here, these Ice Callers, Arcanomancers, all and the Pyromancers here as well, fantastic targets for Curse of Tongues as well. These bosses as well, fantastic targets for Curse of Tongues. Very worthwhile to note, their individual casts are affected by Curse of Tongues. Bosses are impacted by Curse of Tongues. So again, fantastic targets for that. Really helps make this fight much more healable, especially on Tyrannical. This can be a very intensive fight. So the healer is having to, pull upwards of 200k depending on the E level. Can be a very, very dangerous fight, made not trivial, but much closer to trivial with Curse of Tongues. And if you have empowered Curse of Tongues and you're intelligently kind of moving it during the fight, also in that case becomes almost trivial the interrupt requirement on this fight. Another worthwhile, I think I actually, coming out of this dungeon, actually I believe I show off one more gate skip, show off the 2 routes available. Yeah, here we are. The 2 routes available to get to this gate skip location are either through here, if you do want to pull this pack. This is a totally acceptable pack to pull, very, very easy to pull. Not a difficult to fight pack at all here. And you'd be coming right back here to this location here. Or alternatively, and this is actually probably the more common pack to pull here, is in this house when doing the skip. This is just a bunch of casters. It's 2 naturalists and a mender. So this is the exact same caster packs that you would have near the first boss. That 1 mender, 2 naturalists. Typically pretty easy to fight. And after killing them, you could just drop down out this window. And this actually skips you straight to the second boss. It's deceptively easy to do as long as you zoom your camera all the way out. Would recommend Leatrix Plus to ensure that you do just kind of, it automatically sets your, max zoom. So your max zoom baseline is a little bit closer than this, which makes this skip a little bit more difficult to do. But Leatrix Plus will set it for you automatically, or there is a console command for it to set your max zoom distance a little bit further back than the base game allows you to do. But as you can see, that gate there, I'm just waiting a few seconds for the gate cooldown to come back up. And even though this looks like it's going straight through a wall, right here, very easy. That will take you directly into the second boss during an actual key. So definitely worthwhile to note that, like I said, that will take you straight into that boss, will not give you time to sit and prepare or do anything. But so always advise having your tank do that first, but very straightforward. Lock gate skip there as well. And I am going to take a second here, if I'm not mistaken, to look directly at one of these Berserker mobs so that you can see what I am talking about. This mob right here. There are several of them. Most routes try to avoid these best they can, because they are just very, very easy for them to jump on and just murder one of your ranged DPS. There is a weak aura available that will show you the cooldowns on their charge. It actually shows the cooldowns for the various abilities for all the enemies across this current season Mythic Plus. Most importantly, their charge, though. If you stun them before their charge, when it is coming off cooldown, and they remain stunned until it comes off cooldown, and they would have to use it then. It will go back on cooldown for them. Effectively, it's a 16-second cooldown or 17-second cooldown. So you can kind of completely negate one of their charges if you just stun them at the correct time. So getting that weak aura is highly advised, just across the board for all classes, regardless. And in this case, especially, it can definitely help you save a DPS's life, because that charge potentially, very potentially, one-shots on high key levels, especially fortified, especially bolstering. One thing that I did not mention, I think I just exited the dungeon here, if I'm not mistaken. I do. So I do want to hop back here to when I was running towards the first boss. 1 second here. Just jumping back a little bit here. There is one more Warlock Gate position that can be used, and I do use this personally, and it is actually from right here to where those first pack of Dreadblooms is. You can Warlock Gate basically through this little like hill here. Depending on Gnarlroot's positioning, that can be useful. Most tanks don't notice that it's there. Most people don't really notice that it's there. But especially if you're nervous about pulling Gnarlroot, or if anyone in your group is nervous about pulling Gnarlroot just based on his path, because his path pretty close to this. Typically, you can get around it, no big deal. But just in case, you can basically just use Soul Burn. That's what I do. I always use it for the instant lock gates, and just kind of throw your mouse over to the opposite side where those dread petals are, and throw down the lock gate. And it's super easy. No actual kind of special weird camera thing that you have to do. You can literally just like put your mouse up, like almost from where I am. Like if I was right up against this, I could just press Soul Burn and throw my mouse like over here, and the Warlock Gate would land there. No problems at all. So very straightforward Warlock Gate position as well. Outside of that, just kind of the general Warlock kind of knowledge here. I would say Soul Burn is super valuable. Definitely an underrated ability in Mythic Plus. Does help, like I said, with those instant gates. So really helping with the mobility of your group, especially in this dungeon where I do think that Warlock Gate is deceptively very valuable. Definitely something that is undervalued in a lot of keys, I believe, by just general pug groups. But that is largely what I would consider kind of less spoken about tips here in Everbloom. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please absolutely do check out some of the other content available on my channel, or catch me live at twitch.tv/Kadalis. Please follow so that you can receive live notifications for when I am streaming. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the video.